Well, good morning, everybody. Is this oh, there we go. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here this morning and joining us. This is the first study committee meeting for the vape study committee, which we'll get into shortly. But before we do, yesterday we obviously had just one of the most unimaginable tragedies that our state has ever seen. It was just right down the road, about 15 minutes down the road in Barrow County. And so certainly I thought it would be appropriate this morning to open us up with a word of prayer. And so I wanted to welcome up Robert Green, Pastor Robert Green, who's pastor of Ashford Manor Church right here in Watkinsville, to pray for our community, pray for our state. It's just unspeakable tragedy what we saw yesterday in Barrow County. So Pastor, if you wouldn't mind, thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation, Houston, and I just invite everybody to pray with me. Gracious Lord, we don't even know how to pray. We're heartbroken and hurting, and as we read the scriptures in Romans 8, that we know the Spirit intercedes for us in times like this. And Lord, we need all the help we can get. We lift up the Winder community, the Appalachia High community. Lord, be with those students, be with those teachers, be with those administrators. Father God, we pray for the families of Richard Aspinwall and Christina Ermy and Mason Schimmerhorn and Christian Angelo. Lord, to be especially near those families. Give your peace, give your comfort. And for all that were traumatized, and Lord, pray that you would provide the resources they need. God, as we pray, we're thankful for law enforcement officers, those in this room that protect and defend us on a daily basis. We thank you for those resource officers. Lord, be with them. Lord, we know that we've got a lot of problems in our country, and we know that the wisest thing, Lord, is to turn to you. And so we pray to do exactly that. Lord, we ask that you would bind up the enemy. Lord, let him not enter the minds of those that would commit heinous acts like we've seen. And so, Lord, please protect us. Please turn our hearts to you, Lord. We have so much hope in this generation to come that are our students, Lord. And so would you raise up among them leaders like those in this room that represent us in the legislature and in our communities. So, Lord, build them up, Lord, and help us to see a new and a different tomorrow. But I thank you for all these who serve. Again, we lift up the Barrow County community, and particularly Appalachia, and Lord, all those affected. And we humbly pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pastor. And I know Pastor mentioned in his prayer our law enforcement officers, and certainly yesterday there were many heroes, students, staff, teachers, and law enforcement officers. I know several in this room were working around the clock yesterday. Sheriff James Hale, I want to thank you for being here, and thank you for helping Sheriff Judd Smith yesterday and his team. Mark Smith, I know, is here from the Oconee County Sheriff's Office. Thank you all for working around the clock yesterday with our neighbors. And Superintendent, thank you for having us this morning. I know Dallas LaDuff was just an Oconee County school principal here, and now superintendent there in Barrow County, and so we pray for everybody in Barrow County. But Jason, thank you for having us this morning, and so I want to now. We're actually in representing Marcus Wiedauer's district. I represent a little bit of Oconee County, but Chairman Wiedauer has the bulk of Oconee County, so we're in his district, and I thought it'd be appropriate to hear from him this morning and just welcome us to his district. So, Chairman Wiedauer.
All right, well, thank you, Houston. Thank you all for being here on this very important topic. I've got a couple high school kids that are affected by this daily. So appreciate y'all being here. Obviously, we're a citizen legislature. I'm on a host of study committees as well. I'll be in Macon on Monday talking about licensure. So appreciate the representatives coming up here to my hometown and talking about this topic today. Jason, Superintendent Branch, appreciate the use of your facility. Brand new, if you can't tell. So it's a good thing for stuff just like this that we plan for to be able to provide to the community. I'm glad we're immediately taking advantage of that. Cannot also go out. My good friend James Hale, we work out together every morning, so we talk a lot. But not this morning. Unfortunately, he had his hands full helping out a good friend over there, Dallas LaDuff, who, like Houston said, was a product of Oconee County Schools. Just thinking about them and Mr. Yancey in the back, I want to give a heartfelt to you, lost his mother. Big for you to be here today, knowing what you had to go through yesterday as well. So thank you for being here. And thank everyone for taking on this topic. Come back anytime on maybe happier stances, maybe on a fall Saturday football game. Come look me up when we're here. But I'm going to go back to my job right now. And if you guys need anything while you're here, please reach out to me.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for having us. And as he's exiting, I'm going to ask we have 6 committee members. 2 of them are online. So I don't know if they can speak, but I don't think that's capable. But the 2 members who are here in person, I'd just like for them to introduce themselves briefly, if y'all wouldn't mind, and we'll start with Representative Hughley.
Good morning. I am Carolyn Hughley, and I have the privilege of representing House District 141, and that is the best of Columbus, Georgia. It's been quite an experience getting here this morning, Mr. Chairman, but I also want to send forth my concern and condolences for the schools in Barrow County and the families and the children that have been adversely affected. So thank you for having us here.
Good morning. I'm Gary Richardson, and I represent District 125, part of Columbia County, part of This is my ride was not this morning. Pretty easy matter of fact. Thank you all for opening up this beautiful facility for us to meet and discuss the needs of the state and the citizens. And I also would like to echo Kevin's sentiments on just a tragic situation. And I thank everybody in law enforcement and first responders for what they did. And we'll just lift the community up as they go through this time.
Brian, do you want to just introduce yourself as well?
Hi, I'm Brian Hines. I'm an attorney with the House Budget and Research Office, and obviously I want to echo what everybody else has said too. It's been a tragedy, and I really feel for everybody in Barrow County and what they're going through right now.
I also want to recognize Deb in the back. Deb, if you'll wave your hand. Deb helped organize this meeting this morning along with Brian. She's in our office at the state capitol. I'll also mention Representative Misha Maynor, who is from the city of Atlanta, Representative Dale Washburn, who's from the Macon area, and Representative Alan Powell, who's from up north in Hart County. Again, a couple of them are on watching digitally. This is the first of 3 planned meetings. We may have additional conversations as we move forward, but we will have one next week at the state capitol, and then the 3rd meeting will be in Columbia County. Thank you, Representative Richardson, for your help in pulling that meeting together. So we'll have them back to back, and then we'll consider if we need additional meetings at that time. But certainly this is an important topic, and I just wanted to start for the committee members, but also for the audience, kind of where we are on this issue. Why are we having a study committee, and where this issue is in the state. This past legislative session, there was House Bill 1260, which was a measure that I sponsored in the House that would have tried to address what we've seen is, in my opinion, a crisis in the vaping issue here in our state. Certainly, we've seen it impacting young people, and that's why we wanted to come to a school facility to certainly highlight the issues we've seen, particularly among young people. I think if you would talk to teachers, school administrators, and certainly law enforcement, who will be hearing from all of those individuals today, they would tell you, and there's Representative Dale Washburn. Come on up to the front, Representative Washburn, who's from the Macon area. Was there any traffic this morning? Lots of traffic. I think you'll hear today the issue that has been impacting young people across the state. And so this past legislative session, and a couple of the committee members here are familiar with the bill, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a recap of kind of where we are and what the bill did or would have proposed to do. It did not ultimately pass through the legislature. It passed the House. It passed Senate committee, but on the last day of session, it never got called to the Senate floor, unfortunately, because I believe it would have made progress on trying to address this issue. But what we've seen is largely the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, has failed to regulate vaping across the country. We've seen just a massive explosion of what are disposable vape products that largely have been brought in through China, that they're going straight on shelves, and there's really no there's no oversight. There's very little regulation in that arena, and you have a lot of retailers, and I think you may hear from some today that want to know what they're selling is legal. They've been a great part of this process. Right now, there is not a clear list of what is a legal product to sell and what is not a legal product to sell. It makes it challenging for retailers. It makes it challenging for law enforcement. It makes it challenging for consumers to know what they're getting is legal. There's a certain number of products that were, it's a very complicated process, but they had filled out an application basically with the FDA by a certain date, and those products, whether they've been approved or are on hold, can legally be sold. If they've been denied, they cannot be legally sold. We know what products have been denied, but there's a certain number of products that we don't know. They're in a temporary status, and there's no list of what products are legal to be sold. There's about 45. I think during the session we were going through this, it was less than that. The FDA has approved a few more products. There's 45 products that we know are legal, but then there's, again, an untold number of products that can be sold, but retailers don't even have a list of those. So what our bill did is it created a registry of products where these folks who are making these products would voluntarily register for and put their product on the registry so that it could legally be sold in the state of Georgia by proving that they had filed their PMTA, is what it's called, with the feds, that it had not been denied. And then they could be able to sell their product in Georgia until the FDA said it was not a legal product. So that is largely what the bill did. It created a state-level registry of what are legal products and what are not, so that retailers had a list of here's legal products, here's what's not, so that law enforcement would, and so that it could be enforced. We started out with the bill, many of you who paid attention during session remember it started out with the Department of Ag overseeing that process. What we found as we moved through the legislative process was that the Department of Ag was not the best place. Instead, it was the Department of Revenue, who is regularly interacting with these same retailers. And I see Austin with the Department of Revenue. If you want to wave your hand, Austin, thank you for being here. We're going to hear from them more in depth at the next meeting. But certainly, not to put you on the spot, but they're here if there are questions that are appropriate. We're going to hear more in depth from the Department of Revenue next week at the Capitol. But again, what we were trying to do is give consumers, retailers, and law enforcement the ability to know what products they're selling or what products they're receiving have actually been regulated, and we know they're legal products versus something that is just a disposable vape that has come off straight from China and straight onto the shelf. And so that's what we were aiming to do with House Bill 1260. It went through a rigorous process this year. And again, it didn't quite get over the finish line. The House passed it nearly unanimously. The Senate, I believe, would have passed it nearly unanimously, but it just did not get a vote. So we are working back towards that next year, if that is the right course. And that's what the point of these next 3 meetings are, is to find out is that the right path? Is it that in addition to any other legislation we need to consider? That's what we're going to be talking about over the next 3 meetings. So I don't know if any committee members have any questions about the bill this past year, but I did just want to start with a broad overview of where we are. And then we will go ahead and hear from a couple of folks who are here today. We have a pretty full lineup, and so we will hear from those folks. I don't know if y'all had any introductory comments or questions, but if not, we will go ahead and move to some of our presenters. Second. Yeah, there'll be, I'm sure, plenty of questions. We are going to start with Angela Holland, if she is here, and Katie Morris, Jake Stewart. If y'all want to, are y'all separate or together?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll bring them up and I'll sit
Okay,
down.
perfect. Well, we'll start with Angela.
I'm Angela Holland. I serve as the president of the Georgia Association of Convenience Stores. So much appreciated working with you last session to craft a bill that we thought would do what it needed to do and allow our retailers to know what is legal and what is not legal to be sold in the state. So we appreciate your stance on that and working with us. Today we have with us Katie Morris with Golden Pantry, so very local to the area. And
Very
then
local business.
Yeah, local business. And then after that, Jake Stewart with Stewart Wholesale out of Waycross. So
Great.
thank you for having us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And Katie, you can come on up. And again, as Angela just said, Golden Pantry is a great local business, and certainly want to thank you all for what you do for our community. So
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Katie.
Thank you all for having us here today. So as it's been stated, I'm Katie Morris. I'm the Director of Marketing for Golden Pantry Food Stores, and I'm here to express our support for the creation of a registry for vape products in Georgia. Golden Pantry is a family-owned and operated convenience store chain based here in Watkinsville. We've been operating since 1965, and we're now under our 3rd generation of family leadership. We operate 31 stores throughout Northeast Georgia region, and as you stated, we're very proud of both our biscuits and our commitment to supporting the communities we operate in. At Golden Pantry, our mission is truly to be a trusted neighborhood store. We live this every day of work. It's not just something that we say, it's truly what we believe. A vape directory would help us fulfill that mission by ensuring we offer only properly vetted products to our customers. As a mother of 3 young children myself, I have a personal stake in this issue, making it doubly important to me both personally and professionally. Golden Pantry strongly supports the creation of a vapor registry in Georgia to assist with the FDA, federal, state, and local enforcement. This registry would be a crucial step in regulating the rapidly evolving vaping industry and helping prevent the sale of these products to minors. One of our top priorities in stores is to ensure that vaping products do not end up in the hands of children and teenagers. This registry would provide additional tools and oversight to help us as retailers who sell vape products achieve this goal. The vaping industry is constantly changing, particularly with new products entering the market. Clear legislation is key to controlling which products can be sold in our stores and imported into our state, ensuring that only compliant and approved items are available to consumers. During the 2024 legislative session, we were supportive of Chairman Gaines's House Bill 1260. We're hopeful that after these study committee meetings conclude, you all will support legislation that will create a directory in Georgia during the 2025 session. A registry would enhance our ability to protect public health, especially that of our youth, while allowing us to continue serving as trusted retailers in our communities. Thank you very much for your time and consideration of this matter. Yep.
Does anybody on the committee have any questions? Yeah, Representative Hughley.
And it might just be for you, Mr. Chairman. In your discussion of this measure, does creating a registry have any impact on the price to the consumer?
We wouldn't expect it to have much of an impact at all. There would be a small fee that would be charged for opting into the registry, but it was a very minor fee. I think we landed at a couple $100. So just to have the product in general to be on the list, so it was a very minor cost. And this cost to the state of Austin, I just don't have the number in front of me. What do we land at?
I'll have to look at it, but I think we were around $1 million.
Yeah, so it's $1 million to state revenue in order to oversee this program, but wouldn't expect it to have much. And Katie, I don't know if you have any
Yeah,
additional
so,
thoughts on
so it's my understanding that that cost would be applied to the manufacturer,
Right.
not to the wholesaler or the retailer, which are your, your local businesses. So I wouldn't anticipate any passed along cost to the consumer. Sure?
Any other questions? Well, thank you. Thank you
Sure.
for being here. And
Yeah,
Jake Stewart, and Jake, you're from Waycross, is that right?
Blackshear.
Blackshear.
They, the Waycross and Blackshear folks get kind of picky. They
Gotta get it right.
Cross stuff. You gotta get that one right. I blame Angela for that, but.
Thank you, though, for coming all the way up here. And I know you and I actually emailed during the
Yes.
legislative session. You reached out kind of out of the blue and just said you'd seen what was going on the news, and appreciate your stance and appreciate you being here.
Thank you. No, it's my pleasure to be here. Appreciate y'all having us. We've been a supporter of this registry, and I saw your name on it, just wanted to reach out and give you our support, and wanted to be here for that. For those that haven't met yet, my name is Jake Stewart. I'm the oldest of the fourth generation in our family wholesale business, Stewart Distribution. Our family business was founded by my great-grandfather in 1922. I'm a future business owner, a husband, and a father of two beautiful children that I hope one day will represent the fifth generation in our business. The pillars my great-grandfather used to start our business were honesty and integrity, and we work hard each day to uphold the standards he laid out 102 years ago. He began by making peanut brittle and peppermints in the morning and then delivering them the following day throughout the community. Today, we service over 1,200 locations in 4 different states, most of those locations being in the state of Georgia. There are many issues and challenges the convenience store industry is facing right now, and at the top of the list is how to navigate the vapor category. The need for legislation has reached a tipping point. We pride ourselves on being trusted partners to all of our retail customers, but we need help from our state. We cannot continue to wait on the FDA for clarity or assistance any longer. The safety of our youth needs our full attention. I spent 5 years working as a baseball coach at our local middle school. The families of my pitching staff entrusted me then with their health and their safety on the diamond as well as in the community meant the world to me then, just as it does now as a regional wholesaler. Many states throughout the Southeast have implemented a directory, and there truly isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Louisiana requires vapes to be sold only by distributors with a stamping license. And this, although the vapes themselves are not stamped, this does allow enforcement agencies to focus more on retail outlets that are marketing illicit products. Currently, there are only 34 items that have been approved by the FDA, although there are tens of millions of applications still waiting on a ruling. And many of these applications are for flavored products that appeal to our youth. With North Carolina recently enacting a vapor product directory, I worry this will cause a massive influx of illicit products into our state, many of which were made in China. I know that we have many retailers in the state of Georgia with age verification technology that they currently use to monitor their alcohol and nicotine sales and ensure that minors aren't purchasing these products. I know that we have tobacco partners in the tobacco industry that can market vapor products responsibly while adhering to federal, state, and local regulations. Many of these partners already have items that are approved. I know the responsible retailers in our area need our help. A Georgia Vapor Product Directory will allow us to confidently provide retailers a product mix that complies with the high standards our customers and our family uphold each day. In conclusion, I feel that a state directory is necessary for our industry and our state for the safety and well-being of the families we provide services for. I will offer my assistance in any way possible. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you for driving all the way up here, and any questions from the committee? And if y'all wouldn't mind, when speaking, I've gotten a few messages from people watching online. Just pull the microphone up close so people online can hear.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Stewart, most of your customers are retail outlets and
Convenience stores.
convenience
Yes,
store
sir.
type. So who would be supplying like the smoke shops? They're popping up all over our community. So-
They're all over the place, yes, sir. That's not something most regional wholesalers do. There are a couple here and there. I believe the majority of those can get product online very, very easily, which was part of our concern with this. The online vapor category has really exploded, and They can get just about any flavor they want, at any strength they want, not have to know where it came from, where it was made, and can order that straight to the store.
Thank you for that. I think that's where the major concern is. If we
Yes, sir.
know, you know, who's handling it and what's there, I think everybody's a little more comfortable with the product, whether you're in favor of it or not, but you're comfortable.
If you know where it came from.
Right.
That's correct, yes, sir.
But when
And,
you don't know, and it's coming in at a different mix every order, I think that's where we've got to try and figure out something, so.
That's been the challenges we faced as a wholesaler, and then the retailers are facing as well, losing consumers to those vape shops because they're going in, you know, looking for something that really probably shouldn't be there.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Anything else?
Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you again for
Yes.
for making the time to be here. We really appreciate it.
Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you. Tony, tell me how to pronounce your last name.
Derrickott.
There we go. Thank you for being here, and thank you for what Downtown Academy does. And y'all are another great organization here, so thank you.
Thank you. So my basic reason for wanting to be here, Katie is a close friend of mine, and she reached out, told me this would be going on. I'm a former administrator for Clark County Schools, for City Shores High School, and so I directly saw the impact, what goes on daily. Oftentimes what I would tell people, one 18-year-old can help supply for an entire school. And what you begin to really understand and look at is it seems so innocent, it seems so easy when a youngster wants to get their hands on a vape. They have the different flavors and the different things that it seems just cool to do. One of the things that the nurse had in her station was a poster showing the contents of a vape compared to smoking cigarettes and just the impact. But what I think what a lot of people take for granted is, although it seems like it is so easy for students to have an impact and be able to be exposed to vaping and other things that go on, when you really get a chance to really look at what goes into these different items, we would have times when we would have to basically look up and research and figure out exactly what these young people were ingesting. And when you look at the nicotine products, when you look at the THC products, it is truly a situation that is a silent killer that is really ravaging our communities. And what I tell people that when you go into a restroom setting and you see multiple students in a stall and it's one vape that they're passing around, and it just blows your mind with the impact that they don't really understand what they are doing to themselves. What people take for granted, you also have to consider if they try to hide evidence and flush those down a toilet setting, then everybody's impacted because it causes sewage back up. It causes plumbers to have to be called. So it's not just an issue that deals with the family. It is truly an issue that deals with everyone. And when you have local convenience stores that are right close to schools, because everyone's in the community, it's so easy and so prevalent for people to be able to go into a store to grab these products and to have them exposed to young people. And so what we constantly would try to do is try to educate not only young people, but parents, try to educate stakeholders to try to make sure they understand the vast array and the impact that goes behind the things that are going on within schools. But sadly, we still have a lot of work to do. And so this House bill is a great step in trying to make sure that people are armed with the information, but at the same time that retailers understand that we need your support, we need your help, because this is something that truly impacts so many communities. I have a lot of friends here in Oconee, have friends in Barrow, have friends in Oglethorpe, and throughout the Northeast Georgia region in terms of Northeast Georgia RESA. And we continually would see the same issues, and the question becomes, how do we stop something that seems like it's a runaway train out of control? And so this would be a great step in trying to help not only slow the impact, but really try to bring more education to the forefront so that people are the information that they need. This truly is something that needs to be addressed because it impacts and really has an influence in terms of all communities, and we need to try to do what we can to try to address this.
And real quick, if you want to tell everybody a little bit about Downtown Academy, I just think it's a great organization.
Sure. I'm actually the executive director over Downtown Ministries. We have many entities that fall up under our hats. Downtown Academy is a K-5 school. I saw an opportunity. I'm also a pastor. I saw a great opportunity to lead the public school light, work in private school with a Christian organization, And we truly are trying to put boots on the ground to try to really raise up godly leaders in downtown Athens to where they can give back to the community. We also have our Daily Bread, which is a community soup kitchen that provides meals to the homeless through breakfast and lunch, and trying to really empower people with other services that can really help grow them. So part of what I tell people that God really spoke to me, although I was working with young people from a teenage setting, he wanted me to shift to work with students from a younger setting so we can try to not only set a foundation, but to be able to empower them with the things they need to be able to grow in a godly manner, to be able to be great citizens and to be able to help this world in which we live.
Well, thank y'all for what you do in our community. Y'all make a big difference. Does anybody have any questions? Representative Hughley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here. You mentioned education. How do you envision that? What would we need to do to provide the appropriate amount of education to young people about the seriousness of embarking upon using vapes?
That's a great question. I think one thing that we take for granted, we oftentimes say teenagers. I have a 7th grader in Clark County schools right now. He was exposed to a vape when he was in the 5th grade. And so it's about trying to, with education, implore upon people at an early age, parents, parental support, that we have to start making sure that we show what this looks like at an early age. For whatever reason, we have a mindset of this won't be an issue until later on, but it's necessary with an educational standpoint to start empowering people to say that this is something that impacts everyone. Had a chance to talk to an administrator a couple of weeks ago, and when they looked at the behavioral history of a student that they were dealing with at the high school level, the student started vaping when they were in the 3rd grade. Now, I want that to just settle in for a second, the 3rd grade. And so if we're not empowering people to let them know educationally that we have to put things in the forefront, whether it be ads, whether it be commercials, to really tell people that this is the impact that's going on, then we're already flunking people before they ever get a chance to be exposed to any high school settings. And so educationally, it has to be a complete wraparound type approach to where all entities have to be on the same page to make sure that we try to provide information to all people to make sure that they can show their young people that this is something that's real, that's impactful to all. Because if a child can become addicted in 3rd grade, that already shows that we've done that child a disservice.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for what y'all do. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
We are going to head into a couple longer presentations now. So if there's anybody who wants to make a brief comment about this issue, now would be a good time before we move into Patrick and Carlos. Are y'all here? Y'all want to come on up? And I don't know if anybody in the audience now would be a good time if you have a brief comment on this issue, because this is going to be about a 45-minute presentation to get us kind of ground set on where we are with this issue. These two guys are experts, and I think it'll be really helpful to just ground set where we are. Does anybody come on up to the podium, and if you wouldn't mind, just let folks know who you are.
You're good, I'm sorry. Yes, good morning, Chairman Gaines, committee members. Tony Lockhart, Chief of Police for Gwinnett County School Police, and want to express your gratitude for giving us an opportunity to come and talk. And I've also brought Lieutenant Quentin Taylor and Officer Juan Guadardo. He's basically boots on the ground and so forth. And we've seen at Gwinnett County Public Schools, the largest school district in the state of Georgia, the impact that vaping has had on our students, our faculty, our staff, and not just the nicotine vaping, but also the THC. And truly do believe we need more regulation. Representative spoke to education, definitely some PSAs and so forth, and wanted to come forward and express our gratitude for starting this committee, for the House bill that you introduced, sir, and for the forward progress that we do want to see in regards to vaping. You know, wanted to jump in front of our gentleman here because we do you know, need to get back to our schools with the impact that, you know, the tragedy that happened in Barrow County. And for us coming to express, this is important for us to be pulled away from the schools after the tragic event. That is how vested we are in the importance of this. And whatever we can do to help assist, you know, definitely want to. From what we see, vapes aren't being sold in the vending machines inside the cafeteria in our schools. It's, as the gentleman representative referred, a lot of it's the smoke shops that are selling these products, and individuals going and buying 20, 30 of them and bringing them to school and then selling them inside the schools and so forth. So again, appreciate any initiatives that are taken from the state level to help regulate and enforce the illegal sales of them.
Thank you for what you do every single day and keeping students safe, and is our largest school system in the
Largest,
state?
yes,
lar-
sir,
I
yeah,
mean,
182,000
That's
students.
amazing. Well, thank you for what you do. And does anybody, Representative Richardson, I have a quick question while he's asking as well, is what is the magnitude, 180,000 students, I'm assuming you're seeing this every single day, multiple times a day.
Yes, sir, we are, and Officer Wadardo can speak to it, again, because he's boots on the ground, he's inside Berkmar High School, but yes, we're seeing it every day. We're seeing not just a high school level, middle school level, and elementary school level, as the pastor, minister referred to. But yes, and it's the nicotine vapes, it's the THC vapes that are coming in, and once again, the illegal products that are not regulated and so forth.
That was my question. If you had to say the use, is it percentage-wise, nicotine versus THC, is one through the roof versus the other? I mean, just if you could give maybe an estimate.
I'm not able to give you an exact number. What I will tell you is that Pastor Derek Hott, I think he stole my thunder and spoke about what I was going to say. It is an issue. It's an issue that starts early. By the time they get to my high school, they already have an addiction. Things that SRO Sims and I do, he's my partner in Berkmar, when we find a student vaping nicotine or THC, what we like to do is bring them in, have a sit down with them, explain the consequences that vaping can have towards their health, and also the legal consequences that it can bring to them. Most of the time, I will tell you, it helps, especially when you have that sit down and you show the student that you care about them, that you're there to educate them. They're going to make mistakes, right? They're going to try different things. But sometimes it takes administrators, it takes a partnership. I, as an SRO, I'm not going to be able to stop that, but I can be part of a partnership to do it.
Any other questions for these gentlemen? Well, thank you all again for what you do, and especially in light of yesterday, we appreciate you more than you know, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here, and safe travels back.
Thank you.
Sheriff Hale, thank you for being here, and again, thank you for your work yesterday and what you do every single day.
Thank you, Chairman. So the reason I come before you right now is after hearing some of the other comments we talked about the vape product in the school systems or in the hands of children. One of the problems we're having is on the back end, the investigative side. So making sure that whatever legislation you come down with this bill, not only is the regulation of the product itself, technically it's written in the law that if it's a higher content of 0.003 of THC in a vape product, it's supposed to be illegal. Problem is, I don't have the tools to prosecute it. And the reason I don't have those tools is because the state crime lab won't test it. The actual testing body that regulates that for what we currently have in place is the only group that will test it, and none of the prosecutors will take those test results as a valid test. So we actually did we had a store here in town that we had to go and do a search warrant on, and we actually seized all of their vape products and their gummies and all of those other different things, the edibles, which are supposed to be illegal already. We ended up having to give all of that back to them and $20,000 that we seized in the process of doing that, trying to interrupt their operation due to the fact that the laws messed up. So it's very difficult for us to enforce the law if the law is written in a manner in which we can't enforce it. So that's why, I come to you in support of the bill. I hope we can get some traction on it, because the regulation of it, not only when it comes to regulating what amount is legal versus what's illegal, we have to have an avenue and a tool in order to be able to prosecute that on the backside of it, so that when we do have the ill actors that come in with the illegal products from out of country or wherever they're coming from, then we have a way of testing that in order to know that it's not, that it's not a good product. So I'm not I think that, I lived through the ages of seeing commercials on TV every day of this is your brain on drugs and the eggs going in the frying pan. We don't have enough of that now. So I think that's what we were talking about earlier about the teaching and the lessons of it. We teach CHAMPS program in middle school, and we think we need to teach CHAMPS program in elementary school because of the fact that the kids nowadays everything's instantaneous. I mean, they've got that cell phone right there. We had to read about it in the encyclopedia, and they have it in their hands. So I think we need to think forward from there and understand that the younger kids are actually a little more further ahead than we were when we're their age. So probably it's time to start talking to them early. But thank you for time.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff, do you mind, Representative Washburn had a quick question. Is that? Sir? What Representative Washburn just had a brief question.
Thank you. I wasn't quick enough before.
No, it's okay.
Would you tell me again what you said about the laboratory and the testing? You said there was a lab test that they wouldn't accept.
Yes, sir.
Explain that to me.
So the state crime lab, because they're so backed up with backlog of testing illegal products such as methamphetamine or cocaine or any of the illicit drugs, they don't have the facilities or the manpower in order to test something like a vape. So sending that product to them, we're not going to get a result from that. They're just going to send it back to us and tell us to destroy it because they can't test it. So what we tried to do was something that they've done down in Middle Georgia, down in Macon-Bibb County. We've talked to a prosecutor there that had success in actually sending those products to a company that does the actual validation test for those products. And that's actually, my understanding, is the actual company that the state recognizes as the one who verifies these products to decide whether they can be sold in a store or not. Now, I'm not really familiar with that part of it. Only know that once we sent our products to them, sent 4 vapes. Out of the 4 vapes, 3 of the 4 were over the 0.003% concentration, which de facto made them illegal. So we tried to submit that as evidence in the case. Well, it got turned down, and so we ended up having to give all the products back to the store, and then again, all of the money that we seized for ill gains.
Is that lab that was being used in Macon-Bibb?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
I
sir.
toured that lab.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Washburn's from Macon, so.
Okay. Yes, sir. I believe that's correct, because they had some good success in prosecuting these cases down around the Macon-Bibb area. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you again, Sheriff. Appreciate you being here. So we will now move to a couple, sure.
My name is Hugh Long. I'm an investigator with the Columbia County Sheriff's Office.
Great.
I would just like to echo what Sheriff Hale said about the problems with the testing on the back end on the investigative side, but also say, excuse me, in our own experience, we've seen that especially the THC vapes are really a gateway into, it starts at a young age, and their gateway into then experimentation with psychedelics, with actual marijuana, and then harder drugs from there. And we've seen that in our own schools as well.
Any questions? Thank you for what
Thank
you
you.
do every day. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. I feel like I should have went before my counter law enforcement parts left, but my name is Haley Beckham, and I'm the manager for the school safety section for the Georgia Public Training Safety Center in Forsyth. I recently started in Forsyth, but I come with 4 years experience as working for the Department of Juvenile Justice, and prior to that, local law enforcement. Local law enforcement, you wear many hats, but at DJJ, my sole responsibility was in the Special Investigations Unit, which mainly handled and dealt with youth that were involved in criminal street gangs. But through my participation in that, I have taught at 47 school systems. And in every single school system that I taught at for a comprehensive approach to gangs on school campus, all of them came to me and not only having a gang presence in their school, but having a drug presence in their school. And I want to share with you and agree with everybody that has come forward when I say that I was usually speaking to high school and middle school, and every single time they told me we need to go younger, because at the point of middle school, at the point of entry, they have established their criminal patterns. And that doesn't just go with criminal street gangs, that also goes with drug use. And so it's really important to give not only our school administrators and teachers that education, but the parents. Everyone needs to be involved in this crisis. And so I come to you from an education standpoint, and that yes, we offer training for school resource officers, but we have opened our training to educators should they request it. And one thing that I am proud to announce to everybody, and if you could please send an email out if there is a distribution list, that we are having a Tall Cop Symposium. And I say tall cop because the speaker that's coming, he is almost 7 feet tall, so they have called him Tall Cop. He is internationally known, nationally awarded for over 20 years experience, and the vast majority of what he talks about right now is vaping. And in his presentations, it's two-part. So he comes in and he will actually visit, because he's coming to speak in Forsyth, he will visit all of the local stores in Forsyth, and he will do his own assessment in which he shares to them, this is how readily accessible in your area I'm able to gain these products. And then he shares what the products are. So we're really looking forward to that. It is going to be open to law enforcement and educators. So if there's anybody that's interested in that, please reach out to me and we would love to have you. And if you have any other training requests, please, if you want to get my contact information after this, give it to me. And thank you so much for having me here, and I'm full support of this committee.
Thank you. What, do you know the date by chance? Or
I do. It's going to be set for January 3rd.
Okay.
We should have an October registration open up for that. We have not opened it up yet, but it's set for Friday, January 3rd.
Okay, great. Well, I suspect some of us may want to be there if that's appropriate.
I would love to have you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you. I know many of our law enforcement partners had to get back to out in the community, so I want to appreciate all of them for being here this morning. We will now move into our first kind of longer presentation. Patrick and Carlos, are y'all ready to go?
Yes, sir. Flip the switch, I hope, and be good to go. Okay.
And we've got about 35 minutes, if that works for y'all, and a couple minutes for questions, up to 45 minutes, if that works.
We're shy of one. Let's make sure we got it. There you go. All right, very good.
Will it be okay if we send out this presentation after to the committee members?
We purposely have it on our laptop because it's
Okay.
law enforcement sensitive.
Okay.
And you'll see why here in just a few minutes. We can provide a shortened version
Okay.
that gives the text.
Okay,
We're happy to provide that to your office.
great.
And then if you want to
Thank you.
spread it from there. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Well, thank y'all for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Patrick Dorokowski. My colleague Carlos Sandoval. We're going to share some time today. If someone could keep us on the clock, because we believe, as we've seen in prior presentations, there's going to be some interaction with the committee. You're going to have questions that are probably going to take us down certain roads, and we'll watch the time the best we can, but we're happy to stick around as long as you need us to. Our goal today is to provide information and for you to ask the questions and do our best on the spot to answer to support the purpose of your study. As we know, based on the title here, the flavored disposable vape epidemic is the new face of organized crime, and we're going to talk through some of that. A little bit about who we are: educator, law enforcement. We're going to talk about the landscape, specifically some of the questions that were already asked, we believe we'll be able to answer in this presentation. But let's start with some data. A question was asked a little while ago about some facts, and here's a few facts from the 2023 Annual National Youth Tobacco Survey. We recently just heard from the prior presenters that we not only see the high school, the middle school, but we're also into the elementaries now. And that gateway is the newest scare regarding this illegal vape, disposable vape epidemic. If we could take a look at the last two bullets here just briefly, 89% of the flavored vapes that are being used are all directly connected to flavors and interests to target kids. So they're kid enticing. And the two brands that are most popular, of course, are manufactured in China. And the big question mark is, what's in them? We have no idea. We know we have the problem. This isn't brand new, but it is brand new to some communities more than others. It's all through the suburbs, in the rural areas of our country. This is now bringing the attention, of course, specifically, as you see with your study, to our communities. We know that there's nicotine vapes. We know that the FDA has struggled to regulate, but we're going to talk specifically about the disposable, about the flavored. These are devices that are thrown away. A prior presenter talked about a young person throwing one of these devices in the toilet, the cause. We also know law enforcement across the country has been able to, at different times, secure these products. Now what do they do with them? Now, these are not eco-friendly. These are a problem for even the disposal after they're taken. So it's more than just our children, the addiction. It's more than just the health concern. It's more than just how the Chinese organized crime are infiltrating our future, our children. But it also has all these other second and third order consequences. The lack of information, as we've heard today, is one of the greatest challenges. And we're going to talk briefly today about a holistic approach. Here's an example of something that you might see as a closed system. These are some of the most popular ones. They're battery units. You can't refill them, and they come in all these kid-enticing flavors. Of course, they're unregulated, and they include both derived nicotine and then the synthetic. And we hear more and more about synthetic drugs, synthetic nicotine, and what's that impact on the young person. Here's an example of some of the social media. So if you think of the different apps that are out there that young people have on their phone, that are different apps than what I have on my phone, they're targeted constantly. This is a new thing, not so much 2024, but a new thing in the last handful of years where the social media has exploded in a lot of locations that young people spend a lot of their time with their face on that screen. You can just see a couple different names here, a Mr. Fog, all the way all through the Kang vape. Wednesdays we smoke pink, and it goes on and on and on. Here's an example across the country, whether you're in the north, the south, the east coast, or the west coast. Various stores are just loaded with these products. They have sales. Carlos is going to talk a little bit about what's the cost.
Well, what I've determined and in my research, the cost of sales for e-cigarettes coming from China, $1, $2 for an e-cigarette product, and how much is it being sold? As you can see, the special's $9, and it ranges from $9, $6, all the way to $20, $25. And again, it's Chinese flavored e-cigarettes. What's in them? We have no idea. No idea. I agree with all the speakers that came up today about the registry and everything, and it's true. I agree with everyone, and the environmental cost that it's going to cause later on in the future for these kids. It's a generation of kids that we're going to lose a generation right there. So.
Here's an example of some of the most recent targeting. Highlighters. We just started a new school year. We could say that every year. For us educators, we know it's an important time. Prepared, you bring your teachers back, professional development starts, the administrators are busy as ever, and now the kids show up. And they're showing up with these types of items in their backpack. They're targeted to have a highlighter. I think we've all taken our children for the pre-start of school collection of notebooks and pencils and pens and on, depending on what grade they're in. We never purchased highlighters with vapes in them. This is one of those targeted areas. Top left-hand corner, cafeteria, focused on kids. To the right, the BART system and how Bart Simpson and all his friends during those cartoon times, they're bringing the attention to something that kids know. And these are just a few examples. I bring your attention also to the 5,000 puffs. Could we imagine having a cartridge that has 5,000 drags of nicotine and whatever other chemicals are in them? That's how large these are now. It's not a one or two, throw it away type of thing. These things go on and on. One of our prior speakers talked about being in a bathroom stall. School administrators, teachers, they know part of their responsibility is school safety. They walk through the halls, they walk through the cafeteria, they have different duties and assignments and parking lots, you name it, and they walk into bathrooms in both middle and elementary, or middle and high school, and they find a number of kids in the stalls. And this is the type of stuff they're sharing. Some of the most recent discreet-looking items, and you can just do a Google and pull this right up online, and you can purchase them. These different types of pens. Now they have the pen that writes, but also you can also take hits from it. We have the Apple-looking watch. If you're in high school and you have a key fob, does it look like this? Possibly. Maybe you have your parents' car. Well, these types of fobs have vape capability. This is the one we're digging into now. This was recently within country, we'll say in the last handful of months. Companies right there on the screen for you. Not only is it now, you have your phone in one hand and your vape in the other, now you can just have everything in one hand, because the attention of some of our young people is that constant screen time. Well, now you can play some games while you're vaping. And if you win, there's prizes. So it continues to hook and hook and hook and hook and hook. This is one that we've seen and we've reported from stories from our research that teachers have seen these hoodies in classes. Kids wear a hoodie, there's the drawstring that comes out, and it actually connects back to a pouch that has the vape. So they suck on the end of the hoodie string. Widely available. There was a question earlier about the where and how do you pick them up, and there's websites out there that you and I could buy them right online. It's very sad when the first screen that pops up, are you 21? Yes or no? Well, of course, you're going to click yes because you can't get past that screen. So you click yes, and now you're in, and you can purchase whatever you want. Some of this can't be stopped by any local or even state law enforcement, meaning from the positions that we're in. Now, can certain sites be shut down and all the rest in certain areas? Absolutely, that's an IT type of area. But these sites are populated so much that if I opened up a vape shop, I can go to these sites and I can pull my products as long as I can get them shipped to me. And Carlos is going to talk a little bit about some of the work that law enforcement has done and how products are making it in without too much problems.
Well, this is a hidden room. This is a location on the West Coast where they've prohibited e-cigarettes, which it causes a black market. And prohibition, what does it do? Is it going to work? Is it going to stop everything? It's going to cause a black market, as you all know. So what happens? Businesses, locations, they make hidden rooms.
We'll see if the volume works.
Yeah.
If not, the video will tell its own story. So the undercover comes in.
Undercover comes in, there's a code word, or they know them, they come in, and if the video works, you can see the individual right there. He's your guard. He's the guy in there, okay, he's coming in. He's gonna come on in, he's okay. I checked him out, he's all right. You come in, find your product,
Oh,
purchase
God,
it.
gotta be skinny,
There's a
gotta
door.
get here.
And you have a choice. Anything you want right there. Again, everything's Chinese from China. What else is China bringing into the United States? Law enforcement said earlier, methamphetamine, cocaine. Vapes is a new product. It's another opening, another door for organized crime and cartels.
And I'm assuming nobody's tested, I mean, this is literally just coming straight onto the shelf, right? I mean, it's.
Yes.
So how do you know what's in it?
We don't.
You know?
We don't. That's the thing. FDA, okay, we're going to outlaw it, or we're not sure what we're going to do. They're not, I hate to say this, but they're not very helpful. You're not getting any word from them. This is a trade show that happened, that occurred, and if the video works on number 2.
Yeah, it's just about probably some of them that are right there. So I know we got Safa, we got Uni Show. Adam, I think Uni Show's up. Yeah, we saw them. We haven't talked to them yet. Yeah, Happy's got them too. I think they're in California.
You guys work at Demand at all?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Demand's got them. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Demand definitely has them.
Yeah, we were talking downstairs. Seems like
Demand seems to be one of the biggest. They're very big. Very, very big.
The Meatpot.
And Meatpot too. They're very big. So is Safa, obviously, as well. So we do it right.
So what's being asked is one of the gentleman who's doing the interview here, who's being interviewed, excuse me, is for one of the companies who's importing. And they're talking about whether or not the retailer can get his hands on some of this stuff, right? And this guy's promising them the world. We'll get it right to you, not a big deal. We got a big manufacturer. We've done it ourselves. We'll do one more. It'll take you into another direction here.
Like the brand in general?
Yeah, I actually work with the company.
Like HG is...
It's Heaven Gifts.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Heaven Gifts. That's our main corporation.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. It's.
You want to do one more?
Yeah, one more, the last one.
They're going out there.
Who's the manufacturer?
It's Seven Gifts. Seven Gifts manufactures it all.
Oh, they're a manufacturer?
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
okay.
Yeah, like he said, like they were the parts. Like, that's all they did.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then they just knew after a while, okay, maybe we just need to just do our own thing.
Develop with the market.
Develop with the market, exactly. They have so much stuff in the back end that they're already saying, like, we already got next things. They worry about the FDA a lot, too.
Okay, what he's talking about is where it's coming from, Heaven's Gifts. That's the name they provided for these e-cigarettes. Heaven's Gifts, think about it. And comes in, and all these folks are coming in, they're trying to make their business transactions there with this individual. I can promise you this, I can promise you this. Then he talks a little bit about the FDA. You know, we're getting this done, we're getting that done. In reality, what's going on? Nothing's getting done. He's just trying to sell his product to these individuals. And where's it coming from? China. And you can see in this video, this individual, he's going to open up a box here. It's unmarked, anything in there. He talks about where it's coming from, how it's shipped into the United States. And then inside the box, there's flashlights, consumer products. And what's inside the flashlights? E-cigarettes. So they're hidden in compartments, hidden in consumer products. Why? To get through customs, to get through the border. Organized crime again. Same thing with cocaine, same thing with methamphetamine. Where are these drugs coming from? China. So this is, again, I keep stressing, this is a new, vapes is a new organized crime coming through. And it's coming to the United States, it's here, and it's going to affect a lot of folks.
But why do they do this though? Like because the vape tax?
No, because DHL does not ship vape. UPS, DHL, they ban vape.
Got you.
It's not the customs. Now the DHL personnel,
it's
even if he
But we
says,
ship DHL. That's who ships all my stuff.
no,
Yeah, it does.
they keep it.
Oh, but it's DHL
Not only that.
freight because I ship in
Even
As you saw, he's talking about how he got here illegally. Again, organized crime, cartels.
Ready with this one?
I'm sorry?
You ready with this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I could zoom right now.
Yeah, I mean, I used to mix juice for a shop I used to work for when that was still a thing.
This is a law enforcement operation.
I was in charge of ordering all of our flavorings, and there's 150 different kinds of strawberry from a single company.
Oh my God, are you
You can
kidding
talk.
me?
This
Wow.
is a-
Yeah,
this is
whether
a
you want
business, so we're
candied
talking about what
strawberry,
you- what
creamy
you ordered and
strawberry,
everything
they have
else.
a different flavor for each kind of naturally occurring strawberries, just like a Granny Smith or a Red Delicious apple taste different.
Are you kidding
So
me?
literally every kind of apple has its own flavor. So like the Japanese golden
Oh my gosh,
apples
sure,
has
sure.
its own flavor.
Different than a Macintosh.
Exactly. So all of those flavors you have to figure out, which is why you could get, if this company made a solo apple flavor and that company made a solo apple flavor.
Again, these
Right.
are all
There's a real
e-cigarettes,
chance
flavored
that they don't
e-cigarettes
taste anything.
coming from China. Okay, this is not your nicotine. There's a need for people who want to vape. Maybe help them out, stop smoking, but they still need the nicotine. I understand that. These are totally different flavored. Again, we don't know what's in it. What happens when these businesses across the country, if you outlaw it, what happens? Black market. So what do? Start opening shops, hidden places like this, and they deal in cash. They're not going to deal with a credit card. They're not going to deal with debit cards or anything like that. So what's going to happen? There's cash in hand. People know it. Criminals know it. What are they going to do? Next thing is a hijacking. They're going to rob them. It opens the door for illicit trade, and people know it. This is a car or a hijacking. 3 vehicles pull up, truck driver unloading some merchandise, e-cigarettes. Look what he does. He gets out, raises his hands. Hey, I'm getting out of here. 3 cars. Get in the trailer, empty the boxes or the trailer from the boxes, put them in their trucks. As much as they can carry. They're in a hurry. They're going to see it. They drop a box and they don't care. We're getting what we can. And this is happening right now. Might not be happening here, but it's happening East Coast and West Coast. Law enforcement in Illinois are ready. They're starting to work on these cases, trying to get the violators. Go ahead, Sophie.
So from a social media platform, we have a couple sites, both the Chinese.illegal.vapes and then, of course, Chinese.illegal.vapes for X and also on Facebook. We encourage anyone who wants to tap into some of the most recent, we'll say over the last year, news articles, research articles, illegalvapes.com, illegalvapes.com. If you sign up, you have full access to the site. There's no cost. It's all about public service. This stays updated literally daily. There's even an email there. If you click the email, it says contact at. Hey, my name is, I'm looking to get some support here. We have other colleagues that are helping the communities by sharing our information, talking about how they can make an impact to stop this type of spread. The holistic approach. There were some questions asked earlier. One of our prior presenters talked about wraparound, which is another synonym to the holistic way. You bring everyone to the surface. You bring all this information, not just to the educators, not just to law enforcement and the various types of law enforcement, but the parents have to understand that many of these issues happen right in front of their eyes. Whether it's the highlighter sitting at the kitchen table doing homework, or it's something else more serious. The state directories, of course, you're all very familiar with. The press releases, op-eds, sharing information to the community in some of the local community papers, some of the churches and or other religious organizations. I know there's town halls in certain communities at certain times, counties, etc. And of course, the research. Thankfully, there's a few universities that are doing some research a few just wrapped up some research. I can tell you places like University of Nebraska Medical Center, they're in the middle of some of their research. If you go to that illegalvapes.com, there's a research tab. It'll share with you some of the data that will be of use regarding the impact on our children. We could talk all day about this slide alone, but we can't underscore enough the way that the law enforcement has other work to do. School resource officers, as we know, have other work to do, right? Assistant principals, they're the instructional leaders of this school. They have other things to do. Taking referrals because of vapes is another barrier to teaching and learning. So medical field, none of us are from the medical field, but they have their whole piece. And the impact of popcorn lung and the things we're seeing with emergency room visits and things of that nature.
I talked to medical personnel, and they tell me the same thing. They said, we're seeing young kids here with popcorn lung. They're having difficulty breathing. They're 18, 19 years old, but they've been vaping since they were, like they said, since 6th grade, 7th grade. So, again, it's a generation. The directories help, yes, and I heard some individual with a business here, and I agree with them about the directories. Law enforcement needs an outline. And that outline, what does it do with the outline? Then you need the folks who are going to do that, follow that outline. Then businesses need an outline. They want to know what they want to do. They want to do the right thing. And then the consumer wants to do the right thing. He wants to buy something legal. And the registry is going to help. Whatever's not on that registry, it's untaxed. Law enforcement or whoever's going to be in charge, they can get it out. Get it out of the system. Get it off the shelves. Move it out. You have to have a medium, just me. You have to have control. You don't want to outlaw it. If you outlaw it, what's going to happen? You're going to have a black market. Okay?
In terms of the research, can you speak a little bit more about the health-related impacts that you were seeing as a result?
Mainly my conversations is with medical personnel. I was in law enforcement 35 years, so I know paramedics, I know doctors, I know nurses, and they're seeing the effects of e-cigarettes, long-term effects of e-cigarettes in these kids' lungs. They can't breathe. They're having difficulty breathing. So, again, we have no idea what's going on in these e-cigarettes coming from China. The sheriff is right. THC is being found. We call it the Delta 8s and Delta 10s. That's where most of this THC is being found. And I know one lab in the whole United States, it's an independent lab, where you can send the item out there and they'll tell you, this is the amount of THC involved in there. Yeah, the sheriff was right. The states can't do it. They can't follow up. They're too busy doing other cases, other work. Anything else? I'm sorry.
And then in summary, the Chinese organized crime, they're sending these products to America. It's impacting our future. You're addressing it at the state level. The FDA still needs to take part. They still need to do something. But states are tired of waiting. And we think the approach that you're taking to be aggressive on this matter is both appreciated, both for our youth across the country, but also for the state of Georgia. And we'll stand by for any questions here at the podium or even after.
I just wanted to point out that statistic that's on there, the 2,600%
Yes, sir.
increase.
That's an accurate number.
That's a big number.
And that's not our number. That comes from the
No,
research.
I've seen that.
Yes, sir.
Same information before, but 2,600% increase in disposable use of disposable vapes.
Correct.
That's crazy. Questions from the committee? Representative Washburn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm curious about the supply chain that gets this stuff on the shelves. So are these little independent vape shops and C-stores, are they buying this product online, or is there a wholesaling
Most
I'm
of the
just
stuff,
curious about that.
excuse me, most of the locations have outlawed or prohibited the sale of e-cigarettes. And again, I keep harping, what does it do? It causes a black market. So people know, it's like buying drugs, buying illegal items. You get with somebody, go over here, or they'll take them there to locations to buy contraband. And it's the same thing with these e-cigarettes. I know a location, I can take you there. And once they start buying, the person in charge, or the person, in that case, as you saw, there was a person there guarding, or the guy gate. You know, once you go through that gate, you open the door, go on in, pick what you want. It's the same thing with drugs or buying illegal contraband. I'm talking illegal firearms, you know, controlled substances, stuff like that. But again, what I'm seeing on the border is it's being brought in hidden. They're not telling customs. Border Patrol agents are finding some of these items, and it's not in a box saying e-cigarettes or anything like that. It's disguised in consumer products. That's some of it. Others are just shipped in. And again, it costs $1 to $2 to order it. I mean, how much is it being sold through the black market? Again, organized crime is doing this. Cartels. What else are they bringing in? I mentioned that already before. Controlled substances, drugs. Cartels, organized crime, what do they want to do? They want to make money. I don't care what I do. I'm going to step whatever I can. I'm going to make money. We're going to make money. And it starts from the kids selling some of these products too later on. And where do they gravitate? Well, I made this amount of money selling e-cigarettes on the streets. What's the next step? Drugs. I want to sell methamphetamine, sell cocaine. I'm going to sell guns. It doesn't stop. They get that taste of money in their hand, easy money, don't have to work all day. Where does it go to? I care for the kids, that's basically. Go ahead.
Representative Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And can you all tell us, based on your experience and research, if there is a state that has adopted this holistic approach, and what are the results? What does it look like?
So in Illinois, you saw the sheriff, they're using every type of enforcement body they have to address the epidemic in certain communities. It's not just the law officers, there's code enforcement. Of course, every state has a different setup about how they regulate and how they enforce their regulations. So that's one of the, we're starting to see, I heard Louisiana referenced earlier, we know Oklahoma is engaged with different registries. There's not one perfect plan that's out there. A number of school systems, depending on the size, depends on what kind of resources they have, of course, goes to how many resource officers they have, how much training they've already applied across that space, and then the regulation of the vape shops in certain communities, that's not being addressed to our knowledge, and how that's addressed is going to absolutely be local law. And I know that's what you're up against today to make that right decision as it regards to, you know, the future state of Georgia. If we look back at any other epidemic or crises, I think we all know from our experience of life that that wraparound or that holistic approach is the way to go. Some of that takes that nucleus of who's going to own that. Is it through the bill that's passed and becomes law in the state? Is it by a county level? So that does vary, and it does get back down to resources. But we can't say enough, the awareness, the awareness, the awareness. That's where it has to start if it's not already in some kind of motion.
Do you know of any, are other countries seeing this same issue among young people?
The UK, it's running rapid. Their young people, they're losing their young people to death. England, of course, Scotland, Ireland, they all have their own sovereignty, yet is one United Kingdom. Their young people are still going to be the same as our young people, right? They want to be part of the technology generation. They want to do everything online. They want to be part of what the next click is or whatever the next fun moving thing is. So the vape systems have impacted them negatively. I'm sure there's others, but that's one that I've definitely paid attention to.
Any other questions from the committee? Thank you all for being here. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We will now move to our final kind of longer presentation, and that's from the Georgia Department. Well, I guess it's maybe split up between a few different folks, but through the Georgia Department of Education, some of our local school systems and our RESAs. So we'll start with Dr. Edwards, who's a retired Morgan County High School principal. And obviously, again, as y'all have heard kind of throughout the day, us being here at a school facility, really focusing on how this is impacting young people. Next week, we'll be at the Capitol, which we'll talk with the Department of Revenue and some others. And then when we're in Columbia County, we'll be hearing more from law enforcement at the sheriff's office there. So, but Dr. Edwards, okay, great. Looks like we got show and tell. Wow.
Good morning. I'm Mickey Edwards, and I am a recovering high school principal. I just retired after 32 years and 25 in administration.
Thank you for your service.
Absolutely. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit more from the boots on the ground standpoint of being in a school. This vape jar actually represents a little over a year's worth of vape collection. It smells terrible. You are most welcome to open it. One of the big reactions that I would have from students if they came into my office was, "Oh man, give me one of those vapes." I said, "Well, you're welcome to them if you can figure out which one didn't come out of a toilet or somebody's crotch, because that's where they hide them." The other thing they would say is, "Man, that's a lot of money in there." And they're right. There's a lot of money in there. When parents would come in, we ended up actually using this jar to do a lot of education of parents. There are many parents who don't know what they look like or what they're looking for. Also, what is unique about this, and I'm going to age myself, and some of you are this old too. When I was in high school at Rockdale County High School, they still had a smoking area for students up until about my sophomore year. They put a fence, like a dog pen. You could go smoke in between classes. And it was those kids that did that. Vaping isn't those kids. It's every kid. It's your kid. It's my kid. It was my boys. I have 2 boys that I've raised. It is the good kids, the bad kids, anything in between, every make and model of kid. They will tell you when we first start talking to them about their vaping, why did you start? What happened? They're going to tell you that it's due to their anxiety. They're going to say it helps me relax, and you're like, that's not how nicotine, but anyway. They will tell you that they didn't want to be left out, and so they tried it because their friends were trying it. And I am not formally representing Morgan County today. I'm going to give you a little bit of numbers and some things to think about and some things that we did. I know that there was vaping down into our elementary school. I know that our middle school was dealing with it as well. And keep in mind, Morgan County, we got good kids, but they're all vaping. Way more than you'll ever think. So back in about 2021, I was there starting in 17, but back in 2021, I looked up and found that we had about 3 arrests for marijuana, and it was the legit stuff. We didn't have any detectors in our school. We started asking for detectors, and in the 22 school year, we recovered about 14 or 15 nicotine vapes, and that's just through somebody saying, I saw this, or kids in the bathroom and that sort of thing. And we recovered 6 THC vapes, and that's when we first started really seeing this. So we were able to get some vape detectors installed in 22, 23. We recovered, well, we had 45 incidences of nicotine vapes, and we had 16 incidences of THC vapes. Now, I want to say this, is that where I might say, well, there were 45 incidents. The majority of the time when you bust a kid with a vape, they have multiple vapes. And that tells you a lot, that that's being shared, that they're being, it's quite a lucrative black market. Once the vape detectors became a little more well-known and established and the kids really believed that they worked, the next year we added a different type of vape detector. We had about 24 incidents of regular nicotine, and then we had 7 of the THC. One thing I think that is critical is that, yes, the vape detectors were a good idea, but you have to understand, too, that you're looking at an iceberg and that what we're catching is that very tip. And understand, too, and I'm so glad this has been mentioned from the school administration standpoint, because everybody wants the schools to do a lot. But they also need to understand that every vape incident you're dealing with can take about 1 to 2 hours of a person's time, or multiple people having to do this. So let me just tell you a little bit about, if you're not familiar with vape detectors, they're pretty cool. We installed them in the bathrooms. It was interesting because we had to help get them calibrated. I did not inhale. Just gonna leave that there. What happens is when a vape is detected in that bathroom, it's done through the electrical particles and all this stuff. It sends a text and an email to all of the administrators you want involved. So we could be sitting in a meeting, vape detector goes off, we go head for that particular bathroom, and if the kid's still in there, those were usually pretty easy. But you got to remember too, if it's class change, you've got a vast number of students in there. You also have to go look at the cameras because you're wanting to see who's coming in and out of the bathrooms at that time. That takes time. You have to identify the students, you have to get them out of class, and then you have to search them. Well, as I mentioned before, the students are not necessarily keeping these in their back pocket. The girls put them in their bras, they put them in their underwear, the guys do the same thing. Fortunately, metal detectors, wand metal detectors, are able to help detect them. So you've got to understand, and it's legal, but you've got to understand what you're putting administrators into for hours of work to try to combat this. There's a range of consequences. I've talked with several other fellow principals, and out-of-school suspension, if there's multiple events, when it's your 3rd event, we were sending you to the alternative school. Other school systems have harsher punishments or less, but you got to understand, anything that's going on around this is now missing instructional time for that student. And don't forget, the teacher of that student now has to try to help catch that student up. It's just this constant ripple of time and energy. The one thing that we did notice too is, or one thing that we ran into, is it's not just the THC vapes. Fortunately, the detector, most of the detectors could come up and tell you that it was a THC event. So that would help you kind of get to the bottom of that. But the Delta 8, Delta 8, 9, 10, 47, wherever it's going to get to. The Delta 8, we had to kind of struggle with where to put that under school rules. And so where we ended up deciding to do it was putting it kind of under alcohol, because it's legal if you're over 21, but not for us. And so had to work through some legal issues on that. What was mentioned about the plumbing, this is no joke. The students will flush these. The ELF ones in particular can't make the turn. And so what happens is you end up with bathrooms with several toilets that are out of commission for a very long period of time, because it's not an easy fix. It is literally having to get them out of the concrete, to dig them up, and to see that just 3 or 4 vapes are enough to completely obliterate that particular toilet. So it is creating expense and time, and it's because the kids are trying to obviously hide them. They don't want to get caught. All right, so at one point, we even had a conversation about is this something that we need to keep pursuing at the level that we are? We do, because the THC use has increased from what we're seeing because it's easier to use. It's not like smoking pot in the bathroom. The smell is not as strong. But what we were also realizing is that then you have more kids under the influence at school, and then many of them are drivers, and they're going to go out and they're going to drive home. And I've had several conversations with kids that didn't always put it together that that's just like a DUI. So that piece of the education part, would definitely help. The other part that has been mentioned today and is critical is that we have had students sobbing in our offices because they are addicted. They are truly addicted, and they will tell you, I cannot make it through the day without. We have helped them talk to their parents. We have had several, they would go to the pediatrician. We would say, we'll work with you on whatever, steps. There is a program that was out and was being introduced that would help students with addiction through like an online platform. Anything that we can do to provide those things to students is going to be helpful. But when you see an 18-year-old young man with his shoulders shaking as he sobs, it's just something that sticks with you because you realize as children, they still don't have the developmental capacity and all of the pieces. And he had been vaping since 7th grade, and his family vapes a lot. The other part of getting the vapes, they are sold, it's very lucrative. They're sold at school, they're sold out in the community. Kids know who to go to and how to get, just like with all black market type stuff. Some of the students we did find were a part of fake IDs, a fake ID ring that we helped work with that was in some other areas, so that they were being able to go out and purchase them. Let me go back to parents. On numerous occasions, we will have a parent say that they want to come pick up the vape. I'll just come pick it up, because a lot of times it's the parent's vape, which is fine. But what they will say is, well, if vaping's the worst thing they're doing, then that's okay. Many are not aware of how to search for or what they look like, so we tried to educate as best we could. And a lot of parents do say, well, it is better than smoking. But if any of you have gone to a cardiologist or a pulmonologist with a family member or yourself, they're asking now, not just do you smoke, they're asking, have you ever vaped? Because they're seeing so many health issues. One of the things that we did have that helps is there's a Safe Campus Rewards program that was on our student platform that they used, Clever, and a student could go in there and turn in someone who was vaping in the bathroom, and if we were able to prove it, they received a $25 gift certificate. We called it Snitches Get Riches, but anyway. It was something that helped, and I think one of the reasons it helped is because you have students who do care very much about their friends, or they don't want to go in the bathroom and see that there's vaping going on in there. So there are students who had a lot of concern about that. So as far as any type of there's another side of this from the health perspective too, and talking with a fellow principal of another county in South Georgia, he said he thought they had to send about 8 students to the hospital this past school year because of the reaction that they were having to the vape, kind of an overdose of it because they were overusing and things like that. So you are also talking some critical medical issues for students as well. So when it comes down, because I don't ever want to go any place that I don't offer some thoughts and suggestions to, and I love hearing what's going on today. Mental health is huge, and you hear it over and over and over, but that's really a big part of what we're dealing with. Also, the addiction piece. If we can really help students get a hold of some of these addiction resources and how to help them, more education, particularly for the parents, more coaches and band directors working with students. Several of our coaches were absolutely no tolerance with vaping at all. And I will tell you, when my own son, who was a football player, I found vape paraphernalia in his room. I was his principal at the time. It wasn't a pretty evening. But I made him take that vape to his football coach, and I made him tell him what he was doing. Where we have strong relationships in our building, those are the people who can help make those impacts. But schools can't do it all. And so having it become, whether it's through a PSA or a social media campaign or something, to push back at the popularity of it and what it's doing to you and impacting your performance, a lot of our student athletes really listen to those types of things. Social media, of course, because there needs to be a whole nother committee on that. Funding vape detectors for schools if people ask for them, but understanding that if they do, it takes so many man-hours to get that work done that some extra consideration may be given there as well. So, any questions?
Thank you. Really insightful. Any questions? Representative Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you so much for being a recovering principal. So did the mere fact that your students knew that there were vape detectors on campus, what impact did that have just by the fact that they knew that it was there?
When we first put them in, they didn't believe it. And so once the first few busts started going down, they were like, oh, that's for real. And we actually had to show students, I would pull out my phone and say, look, this vape incident happened at 10:18 this morning, and here you are on the camera at 10:18, going in. And so once you could convince them, they were like, huh, that's real. And then what we found is, because the vape detectors were pretty expensive, they figured out where they weren't, which bathrooms where they weren't. And so then, of course, you're like, why is everybody going to the upstairs bath? Okay. So then we started looking for funding to add those. There's all sorts of stuff out on TikTok and on YouTube about how to get around the vaping, the detectors, whether it's leaning down and blowing into the toilet. They'll try to blow into their shirts, those types of things. And so I do believe it made an impact. But when you still see it happening, that just tells you they're still willing to risk it because of their addiction.
Representative Washburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for your service. I'm curious, what are the consequences to a student that is caught vaping?
In our particular situation, and like I said, throughout the state, when you talk to people, there's a range. I think some people just give in-school suspension. We ended up doing, for the first offense, 2 days out of school suspension. The second offense was 3 days out of school suspension, and the third was to the alternative school, an assignment to the alternative school for a semester. There are some, again, in some of the other principals that I've talked with, they're actually going for longer suspensions because you're trying to make this really, really stick. For us, this was also very interesting. We had a very tight exam exemption policy, and if you received ISS or OSS, you were not allowed to exempt your exams. And for whatever reason, that also was just, they could hold off on the NIC craving if they didn't have to take that biology exam. So, in some ways that helps. But like I said, the range in Georgia, and I think it would be interesting to really survey and find out what all the ranges are. But again, any punishment we give a student is typically going to be something that they miss instruction.
Are repeat offenders common?
We would end up with, I would say, about a third, because, again, you're going back to addiction.
Thank you.
What is, do you know what a vape detector costs, just out of curiosity?
I want to say it was about, for our district, because we started off small, was about $1,500 per detector. Now
And
that,
you'd have one per bathroom? Or?
well, that's what we figured out, is that we needed two because of the size. Now, understand too, that we also were figuring out that a lot of the vaping was probably going on in locker rooms, but that's such an expansive area, it wouldn't be, it would be very cost prohibitive. I do want to say, in speaking with a colleague who is down in Colquitt County, he said that they installed nearly 50 vape detectors at a school of 1,250 students, which cost approximately $50,000. And they also put in an electronic hall pass system that's $10,000, which helps track where students are going and if they're trying to meet up. That's at great expense, but then you also have to put the administrator hours behind it of those people who are enforcing it, so.
Well, thank you for being here.
Sure.
And Gary, do you have a Representative Richardson?
Do you have any idea of what treatment is? I mean, for the addiction, what the time frame or what you have to go through or what that process may be?
Actually, both my sister and brother-in-law are both addiction counselors and down in South Georgia, and I contacted them and I said, are there any new specific things out there? And they looked around for me, and what they said was they said it's almost the same thing as a smoking cessation type of thing, and they said, but it's got to be a commitment that you're going to work through that for a period of time, and anybody who's ever, quit smoking or whatever, it can be very, very difficult. I did always encourage parents to take their students to their pediatricians, and we even had the conversation that if it was a situation of such a significant addiction that they needed something like a nicotine gum or something while we worked it off, that we would try to work with them. Never had a parent take us up on that, but I do know that some parents did take their kids to the pediatrician. Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
again for being here.
Thank you, and I will leave that up there for show and tell as long as y'all like.
And I just noticed, I mean, it looks like the vast majority of those are, even if you were 21, those are illegal products. And those are the products that, y'all were talking about earlier today that are not supposed to be sold in the United States.
Well, that, and again, his pictures were great of the newest, these aren't the brand newest, but if you'll see, they're all very, very, very colorful, the flavors, all of those things. I don't know, if all of these were produced and they would only be in a black case, would that make a difference? It might not be a school to pull that out.
Very good. Well, thank you for being here. Dr. Sasser, former Lee County School District Administrator and current First District RESA. Thank you for being here.
Certainly. Good afternoon, Chairman Gaines, Superintendent Dr. Branch, and Associate Superintendent with the DOE, Mr. Justin Hill. It's an honor to be here. I'm a 25-year veteran educator. I've had the honor and privilege of serving students and teachers at the school, district, and state level. And now I work with teachers at First District RESA. And I want to say to each of you, in light of the recent tragedy at Appalachia High School, thank you for the work that you do to support educators in our state. I'm going to speak from a very broad context today. I, like Dr. Edwards, have spoken with educators and leaders across the state in regard to this issue, and I have some experience with this issue as a former administrator myself. From 2021 to 2023, I worked with superintendents and principals across the state with the Office of Rural Education as a partnership specialist. In this role, I wrote a school safety grant that over 100 of our 115 districts applied for and received grant money for school safety. Many of them purchased the vape detectors that Dr. Edwards referenced. As I worked in this role across the state, principals and superintendents said over and over again that in terms of student services, the greatest concerns that they encountered were mental health and vaping. It is not surprising that these two concerns were commingled when they were brought to our attention. The first district that brought this to my attention in 2023 was Lee County. The superintendent at that time, Dr. Jason Miller, spoke passionately to community and school members about the impact that vaping had on students. He said that students in their district who vaped THC or ingested gummies in excess demonstrated erratic and troubling behavior, sometimes resulting in altered physical states that were so significant that they prompted medical attention. In fact, that spring of 2023, a middle school student in that very county took a hit off of a vape thinking it was THC, but it was laced with fentanyl, and the student ended up in intensive care. In an era where students struggle with anxiety and depression more than ever before, students use vaping as a coping mechanism to self-soothe. And in fact, in regard to vaping as a coping mechanism, I want to say this to you, and some of you may have seen this online in regard to behavior, but if a student can't read, we teach them. If we can't cope, we punish them. Vaping is a misplaced coping skill, as many of the speakers before me have referenced. We need to teach a better way and not punish a better way. And as a former administrator who has administered punishment for various infractions, we are administering punishment because in many cases that's the only thing we have in our toolbox to address vaping. However, I'm going to share with you some things that some districts are doing that are progressive and supportive in nature. So those districts, first I want to start with Forsyth County. In Forsyth County, the county commissioners there work to use drug seizure money to fund a substance abuse counselor at the Gateway Academy, their district's alternative school, where 60% of the students there were assigned due to drug-related offenses. As a result of the success of the funding of this substance abuse counselor, the district now funds this position. Glenn County Schools, under the direction of Dr. Scott Spence, partnered with local substance abuse organizations who provide optional substance abuse counseling to students in their alternative school program who are repeat offenders for THC vaping. Survey results from these students after completing the program entitled Project Remedy, students reported that this program helped them manage thoughts and behaviors that led to vaping and that they wanted to continue with this counseling once they returned to their regular school setting. In Appling County, students with vaping offenses are required to attend vaping seminars on Saturdays. This school district has partnered with their local juvenile justice system to help provide these sessions that focus on the law around vaping and the dangers of vaping. In Seminole County, they took a slightly different approach. The district instituted mandatory random drug testing for THC in the high school. Students who are in violation have their driving privileges and their privilege to participate in athletics suspended for a period of time if they have THC when they are tested in their urine. And they are also referred to the district social worker for substance abuse report. As I spoke with administrators across the state, they stated that THC vapes are their #1 issue and concern when it comes to vaping. They also said that the accessibility to these vapes is of great concern. One community, Cherokee County, took kind of progressive approaches that I would recommend that you all may consider. So right now, liquor stores, and I'm going to refer to them as vape stores or smoke shops, have to be 600 feet from a school or daycare facility. In 2023, the Cherokee County Commissioners took this a step further and mandated that vape shops be at least a mile from schools and daycare centers. This act directly supports a need that I'm hearing over and over from our district leaders and administrators that limit the accessibility to these things that are so disruptive to our schools and communities. And finally, in 2023, when I was working in the capacity of partnership specialist at the Department of Education, when I received the information from school superintendents and districts, school leaders about the vaping crisis, I approached Mr. Justin Hill, who is the Associate Superintendent with the Office of Whole Child. Mr. Hill went around to RESAs throughout the state, and we even visited a smoke shop because I wanted him to see firsthand what our students are having access to. His team took this a step further and have taken proactive and aggressive approaches to try to create public service announcements and educational opportunities to equip school educators to address this crisis. In fact, his team also administered a survey in 2023 after the visits that Mr. Hill and I took across the state. There were 120 participants from 69 school districts who participated in this survey. 54% of survey participants indicated that vaping was a major issue in their school and district. Common approaches to handling the issue in schools were stricter discipline rules, vape detectors, and public service announcements. As we move forward in our state to address this issue, I just want to extend gratitude on behalf of educators in the state and, of course, you, Representative Gaines, for your forward thinking. We appreciate it very much. Do y'all have any questions?
Thank you for being here. Any questions? Well, thank you for what you do every single day.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank you.
it. And you mentioned Justin Hill. I believe we have Justin with us, and look forward to your comments. With the Office of the Whole Child, Georgia Department of Education.
Correct. I'll be speaking next week at the committee meeting and with
Great.
Matt Cardoza and my program manager for school safety, Mark Muma. But I can certainly share a few comments today for the audience here and for yourself. What Dr. Sasser is mentioning is correct. About 2 years ago, she came to me and said, I think vaping is maybe one of the worst issues happening, certainly around student behavior across the state. And when we embarked upon visiting probably 10 RESA regions, and there's 16 in our state.
Wow.
When I would do polling with the directors and the board of controls, who were basically the superintendents, they indicated typically it was either the 1, 2, or 3 top 3 issues that those districts were concerned with. And in Lee County specifically, they said it was their #1 issue. Now you can imagine with vaping, when the purpose of our public schools is to have teaching and learning take place. And vaping is certainly something that interferes with that from happening. We probably every year have about 22,000 violations of vaping that are recorded by the school systems that make it to the state. That's a lot of violations. Now, students maybe on our surveys report maybe about 3% usage, which is somewhat biased, but we think the number is about 13% of our students, especially in grades 6 through 12, are regularly vaping, which is almost 1 in 5, and that's a lot. So what can we do about these things? I think both Dr. Edwards and Dr. Sasser mentioned several things. One we have next month is going to go live is we can't do this by ourselves. This truly is a partnership to accomplish and to make this plague go away. But Georgia Public Broadcasting company or organization is going to work with us for a public service announcement. So round 1 is coming out next month on the dangers of vaping. It's actually going to take an old Nancy Reagan approach, like this is how evil this is. And the next one's going to be kind of taking the approach that Dr. Sasser's talking about, that this is used as a coping mechanism. And so it's really to inform students and parents of the dangers of this. We had a grant last year from the federal government, round 1 and 2, about $26 million for our school systems. $500,000 were used to vape detectors. Now, as we're on the heels of a horrible tragedy yesterday, I would rather see our money go to other things, but this is indicative of the need that is expressed out in the districts that vape detectors, like we have to find it. And I'll just give some anecdotal information. Actually, when I was driving here yesterday, I stopped to get a cup of coffee, and the district that was near me, we were just chatting it up, and she goes, what are you doing in our town? I said, well, I'm going to do, we're having a presentation for a vaping committee. She goes, I'm 22 years old, and I was hooked on vaping when I was 14. Would you please tell the committee that if someone would have told me how horrible this was in my school, I wouldn't have to have a lung replacement when I'm age 30. And she was coughing while she was telling me this. This is a bad problem, so there's no one that can possibly undersell the significance of this, but it also impacts our ability to help our kids. But I'll share some more data next week, but certainly can entertain some questions right now.
Any questions from the committee? We look forward to having you next week and appreciate your willingness to be there next Thursday.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Well, we are right on time, right at 12. If there's anybody who wants to make any final comments, we do have a minute or so, but we are right at time. Perfect. Well, it was a great first meeting. I thought if there's any comments from the committee, now you're more than welcome to make them at this time. Obviously, we'll hear next Thursday at the state capitol at 9 a.m. We'll have our second meeting. Did you have a comment, Brian? Dale, Representative Washburn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to comment about that this has been a very productive meeting, and hate to use a negative term, but a pretty depressing meeting to me to hear some of the testimony we've heard, but it's a real problem that needs to be addressed. It was well done today, and I appreciate all the presenters. Appreciate your work in putting this together.
Well, I would echo those comments that I knew it was an issue, and obviously this past session got really involved in this issue, but even today, just recognizing how much of an issue this is in our schools in particular, it's, I believe we have a lot of work to do. So thank you all for being here and traveling from all across the state, Columbus, Augusta, and Macon, and being here in Oconee County. I was talking to Becky Riles. I think she said this might be the first committee meeting ever in Oconee County. So we're honored to have people right here in our community, and again, would ask for everyone to keep particularly the folks at Appalachia High School and Barrow County in your thoughts and prayers, and this entire region of the state, and certainly our the teachers, students, staff, and all of our law enforcement officers. So thank you all for being here today, and we will see you next Thursday. Thank you so much.